Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. Today, it's going to be our first waiver episode of the year. Preseason waivers here as we get into week one. Because everyone's drafted obviously by now. There's waiver wire moves to be made though already, especially with some of these injuries. Players you have to drop, find some waivers, especially if you like Jonathan Williams the other day. He was handcuffed, or you drop him, find somebody else. Those injured guys, get rid of them. I got a bunch of waivers here for you. Jeff, I have some too. We'll go through that. None of these guys maybe are going to be special, but it's just some guys to look at. Obviously, they weren't drafted in your leagues. There's probably a reason for it, but I do think there's some value in a lot of these guys. Before we get into that, make sure you check us out on Twitter at the FF Prophet. We're Fantasy Football Prophet on Instagram. fantasyfootballprophet.com is the website. You can take a look there. Check out all our ranks. We'll put our waivers up there as well. We're just going to jump right into the waivers, Jeff. And how we do waivers here is we go to ESPN. Our waiver list has to be players that are owned in 50% of leagues or less off when we get these things. 'Cause it's not everyone. They're not going to be available in everybody's league. A lot of these guys aren't available in our leagues, but we're going to go 50% or less, so should be half the leagues out there they're available in. So I'm going to start off running backs with a guy who's owned in 45% of leagues, who I think should be rostered, because we just don't know the situation. Jamaal Charles. He is only 45% of leagues, but I think he needs to be rostered, because what if he is Jamaal Charles yet? We don't really know yet. So I would take that chance. I'd put him on the end of my bench and see if he's going to be anything. I mean, what about you? What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I think this one's a no-brainer. Right? I mean, I guarantee you have one guy on your bench that you don't really need, or at least someone in your league does. Why wouldn't you take a flyer and a guy that could just be the golden ticket, right? I mean, Heaven forbid, even if he's not completely Jamaal Charles of the past, I mean, he definitely is going to be able to be playable, even if he just stays healthy and kind of does his own thing, because there's a lot of need for him on that offense, even better. You know what I mean? So, I mean, especially with a young quarterback like that, oh, man, you could do some great things to throwing it to him in the backfield, put him in space. I'm excited to see what he can do.
I like C.J. Anderson, but C.J. Anderson's never been able to stay healthy, really, either. So, Foreman's hurt already. He's going to be coming back possibly here, but, I mean, we don't know. Or we don't have a clue. If I say Foreman, Booker,
Devontae.
You don't know. So there's a chance there. I think it's just worth a shot. Throw him on the end of your bench and just wait and see what happens. That's what I think. All right, some other guys. This guy's owned in 21% of leagues. Alvin Kamara. It's another interesting player here. It's mainly because now, especially with Snead gone, in a way it could actually open up a little bit more for a pass-catching back like Kamara, which I think that's his role, what his role is going to be with the team right now. And they're going to need to have another target out there. I don't know if it's necessarily... It's funny when these injuries happen. It's all these targets go to one player in everyone's minds. This time it was Ted Ginn. It's right? Ted Ginn's the one getting all the targets. No, they're going to be spread out probably. And Kamara might get a couple. He's already going to have some value as it was. So with only 21% of leagues owning him, I think he's worth a shot to have on your bench. Another guy, let's see how they use him. I want to see how they use him. And if you have a deep bench, why not throw him on there?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm a big Kamara fan, but at the same time, in the position he's in right now, I feel like he probably needs an injury before you can safely use the guy. But if you do have, a league where you have 12 teams, 14 teams, something like that, where it's much more deeper you go down here, Kamara is definitely worth this shot.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, there's a bunch of rookies we can just group together. I'm not go into each one of them, but if you have a deeper bench and you can stash a rookie, why not? Samaje Perine's in 13% of leagues. Deontay Foreman's in 11% of leagues. Jamal Williams from Green Bay, 10% of leagues. James Conner, 9% of leagues. Those are the kind of guys that if you have a deep enough bench where you're not giving away anything that you need, why not? Throw them on your bench, see what happens. There could be a situation where one of them becomes a starter here if there's an injury. You don't quite know. But I think out of those players, I think Conner, if you're a Bell owner, I think you need to have James Conner. I think that's one of the few real clear handcuff situations, especially after they released Toussaint and then they re-signed him. But it's clear that Conner's the guy if Bell were to go down. And then Foreman, I think, is a pretty clear handcuff to Lamar Miller at this point. I think Alfred Blue went down with an injury here. Believe Foreman's the guy to have there. So if you're a Miller owner, I think you need Foreman. And so only 11% of leagues have him. So I think all Miller owners need to have him.
Yeah, and out of these guys, I like Foreman the best. I mean, obviously, if you take away injury, if you take injury off the table, I think Foreman will still have a role in that offense. And I think being the bigger back, he could have a possibility of being that red zone guy. And I think that's what you're looking for here is, hey, not only can I have a guy that, in case of injury, he's going to move up to be number one running back, but in a tight spot and, during bye weeks, things like that, I could play the guy. He gets, one red zone touchdown and I'm good. I mean, so that's why I like Foreman. I like him the best out of the rest of those guys.
Yep. All right. Another guy, Wendell Smallwood. To me, this is an interesting one. He's owned in 8.3% of leagues. But there's a real chance that he could actually end up being the number one back there. I think it's going to obviously be some kind of committee with Smallwood, Blunt, throwing in Sproles, Pumphrey, who knows, all those guys. So there might not be a clear thing, but Smallwood has when you're looking at guys in your waivers, if you want the end of the bench, you want a guy that has some kind of chance to be a number one running back on a team. And I think Smallwood has that chance. I'd rather have him than some of these fifth or sixth receivers you might have on a team or some other guys. I like the chance there to take with Smallwood. I picked him up in one of my leagues. There's potential there. So just wait and see. Get him on your bench. Wait a week, 2 weeks, see how they're using him, what the offense looks like, and then if it doesn't work out, just release him. Who cares? You're not out anything. Anybody else catches your eye down there? Probably Tariq Cohen, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because, if you listen to yesterday's show, you will know that I'm not the biggest Jordan Howard guy, so maybe Tariq Cohen is something there.
Yeah,
you're not going to endorse that one, are you?
No, I'm not going to endorse that one.
All right.
Actually, this is a good point, though. Obviously, this is going into week one, right? We're talking about waivers. What do you look for when you're actually going after waivers? So, obviously, you already have your initial roster built out, right?
Yep.
For this one, especially, the biggest thing about waivers is you want to get people early on, because otherwise you're going to have to pay a king's ransom for, say, an injury happens and all of a sudden Charkandrick West, Hunt goes down, Charkandrick West is going to be number one. Everyone's going to go after him. So what are you looking for,
honestly,
really?
For the end of my bench, I want running backs that have some potential at a number one running back role. That's what I want on my team right now. I want these running backs. I don't care about the wide receivers. If I have 4 receivers, I'm fine. I don't care about the rest. I want running backs that there's a path to them being a number one running back, because it's so hard to get number one running back. So I'm keep throwing them on the end of my bench and hoping I pick one up. That's how I'm going to do it. Even another one missed here, Jeremy Hill, 16% of leagues. If let's say Mixon got hurt, who's going to run the ball there?
Well,
that's the thing. Like, he might be the starter now. We don't even know.
Hill's an interesting one because he is technically the starter, right?
Technically they're going to say he's the starter. And there's a chance here. He shouldn't be owned in only 17% of leagues, right?
No, I understand why people would get very, very excited about Mixon and other people, but I think that one's a little baffling to me, that the fact that Hill is only in 17% of leagues owned.
Yep.
If you're looking for a running back that can be productive and get you some points, even on bye weeks, things like that, even if he's not going to be in your starting rotation, Jeremy Hill is definitely one of those guys.
Yeah, he just needs to be on the end of a bench, because that's another guy who has a shot at have a full workload. So that's why these kind of guys, like I'm not probably going to be picking up I don't want Shane Vereen, honestly, because there's never to me a chance where Shane Vereen's the number one back there. If Paul Perkins goes down, Shane Vereen's going to stay in his role, and it's going to be what it is. In deep leagues, maybe you can use him, but to me, that's just not a guy I like to use. If Vereen goes down, it's probably going to, or if Perkins goes down, it's probably going to be Darkwa or Gallman, one of those kind of guys. It's not going to be Vereen. Vereen's going to stay where he's at. So Vereen's owned in 30% of leagues. He's owned in more than some of these guys. I don't get it. I don't think it should happen.
Here, break this down for me then. So when you're looking at these, say Deontay Foreman, guys we've already talked about. Deontay Foreman, Wendell Smallwood, and we'll say, who was another one guy? The backup to Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, Connor.
Connor. So say you're going against those three, and obviously each one of those is one injury away from being the starting back. How do you pick from those three, say?
Well, right now, I would actually pick Smallwood. even though I do understand that I think if given the number one job, Connor or Foreman will be better than Smallwood is as a back, there is more of a path, I feel like, the number one role.
So not
right
only
now.
injury, but you think that he could do it by talent.
Yeah.
You think he could overcome Blount.
Yeah, that's the thing. As of right now, I think he could just do it. Without injury, Smallwood could take the job. If Foreman took the job, it's going to be down the road, way down the road. Mm-hmm. Miller's not going to be giving up the job anytime soon. Even with an injury, he could.
Right.
Obviously, Connor, if
only injury,
it's only injury. Smallwood there's a chance that he takes over without injury. That's what I'm looking at. And yeah, he's not going to probably be great, but sometimes that's okay. If you can get hopefully then if you're picking up a guy, he's going to be like your fourth running back. And if you get a fourth running back who's just okay, I like that. It's more like a few years back, I picked up a guy by the name of Alfred Morris right before the season started because it looked like he had a shot at being the number one running back on the team at the time. I think he was probably behind like Roy Halou or something at that point. Who knows?
Yeah, probably was, yeah.
Something like that. And it was and Morris was never amazing. And he's new. He was never top end talent, but he had a role and he was good enough to be like your third running back, and that's fine. Smallwood maybe could be that,
Yeah.
Not saying he's gonna be great, but out of these guys, he has the best chance to be, have a role there.
And when do you cut ties with the guy?
It's honestly for me, it's quick. if somebody the Smallwood situation, because I'd have Smallwood because of a potential spot at being a number one back, and if it's not happening after like week 2, I'm done with him because I'm not holding him for an injury. I'm holding him. I was picking him up because I thought he would maybe take the job. So then I might just go to the next guy and see, keep doing that. I rotate those bottom running backs quite often. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes you miss. Sometimes you release a guy too early. That's happened. So that does happen too, but I guess that's just kind of the chance you take sometimes when you're doing that. So, all right, we should move over to wide receivers. Let's see if we got any good wide receivers here. Owned in under 50% of leagues. It's probably not as many just because of, there's so many wide receivers that are owned, but there's a couple. Let's see here. Who should I talk about first? There's nobody standing out to me. I do like Kenny Galladay at 7% only. I think he's a guy who put him on your bench for week 1 or 2. See what his role is going to be. That's a guy who there's a chance that he could be probably what? There's a chance he could be the number 2 receiver in Detroit. We don't know with Marvin Jones for sure, but even a number 3 can be productive. So, you like him. I know you think he should probably be owned there.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't think he's startable or anything yet.
No, but it's
the thing I like about him too is you know what I mean? And for wide receivers, it's not so much the path because a lot of wide receivers can play. It's how productive can you be when you're in there. And he's already shown he's going to be a good red zone threat. And you can never have enough of that. And with Ebron, being very injury prone, Marvin Jones, Tate kind of being up and down, Tate's a smaller wide receiver anyway. I think he kind of has a niche, and that's what I like to see with wide receivers like that because he's a rookie. He's kind of a tough one, but I think he could get some touchdowns that other guys down here won't be able to get.
Yep.
So
I do like if you have a deep enough bench where you can sustain it, Mike Williams. I wouldn't mind throwing him on the end of your bench if you can do it.
Yeah, I'm still a proponent of that. I really like that.
Yeah, I do too.
But how many weeks do you think you have to hold on to him before he's worth playing?
Okay,
though?
but they didn't put him they took him off the PUP list. Mm-hmm. So that's 6. So you have to kind of think in your mind they expect him to be back before week 6. So it might be like 4 weeks before you can see him. Week 5 maybe he can play or something like that. Miss the first month. I think you can probably sustain that on your bench long enough. What do you think? If you have a league with a deep bench, you can do it. If you're a league with a shallow bench, you can't. You got to just wait and hope that you're the team that gets him. You have to wait and just try to get him a week before he comes back or 2 weeks before he comes back. So, but if deep enough bench, put him on there and just wait and see. Same with John Ross even. John Ross is going to be out for a week, maybe 2 or whatever here. But if you can sustain it, put him on the end of your bench. And that's those top 10 picks and top 10 wide receivers. He could be great. Why? Who's to say he's not going to be great? Look at what Odell Beckham did. This is the Odell Beckham situation from 3 seasons ago now. What was it? 2014, where he's rookie. That's what it was. He was, hurt, so no one picked him up. If somebody had just kept him on the end of their bench, you would have been really loving life towards the end of the season there. So Ross and Mike Williams, put him on I'd say put him on the end of your bench if you have the shot to. Even let's say here, is there anybody that stands out to you? Josh Doxson's owning 41% of leagues. I see there's a path there, but he's been hurt so much, and it's not just a rookie doing it. He's done it for 2 years now where he's been hurt, and he's going to be the third receiver at best right now there when he comes back. I'm surprised he's actually owning that percent of leagues.
Right now, the way I'm kind of looking at waivers also is I'm looking at teams that actually need to fill a void. So the ones that kind of interest me, the number one,
Devin Funchess is your number one.
Yeah, of course, Devin Funchess. For us or me hating him so much, we say his name a lot on the show. But I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with Seattle. So both Lockett and Richardson are owned in practically no leagues. So Lockett 22%, Richardson almost 1.1. So Baldwin and Graham are going to get all the targets. I mean, they just traded Curse. So obviously these are probably going to increase a bit. Lockett's already gone up by like 8%. But you pretty much pick whoever you think is the better guy in that situation to take those extra targets that have fallen away, and you can throw them on your bench, especially for week 1 and 2 when you're going to you can actually figure this out. So that's one situation I really like. And Lockett has burned me in the past really, really badly. But I feel like if he stays, it's never been talent. It's always been health.
Yep.
So if he can, and he's questionable right now, so I can't believe I'm actually endorsing him. But if Lockett can stay healthy, I think he could do some really nice things in that offense. So I really do like Lockett, kind of. I would give him a week or two and figure out. But so he's someone I kind of like. And another one that I know Craig is going to completely disagree with me on, but another one is the Jets.
Ardarius Stewart.
Yeah, so I like Ardarius Stewart to give him a week or two to figure out what they're going to do, because I think he's by far their best athlete. And and Robbie Anderson is their number one, and he's only owned in 5% of leagues. I totally understand why people, totally understand. But if you're in a situation, throw one of those guys on the end of your bench. First of all, I think Lockett is better than the other ones, but... Yeah. But it's one of those things, like, someone's going to be a winner, someone's going to be a loser in that situation, and you could get value out of it, even though their teams are awful.
You know what I don't understand?
Not Seattle, I'm sorry, just Jets.
You know what I don't understand? And why is Cooper Kupp owned in 16% of leagues?
Yeah, I think he did have a great preseason.
I don't see it happening. Maybe I might be completely wrong, but if people are down on Sammy Watkins because he's playing for the Rams and he has Jared Goff as his quarterback, why is Cooper Kupp going to be great? What's the reasoning here? I don't understand it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think they're just assuming that he's going to be easier to throw to because he's going to be more of a slot guy.
I don't know. Maybe that's because I like Watkins so much and people are just down on it. So I'm trying to just hit them back with something here. But should Robert Woods be owned in only 4% compared to Cooper Kupp 16? Maybe that's just they know what Woods is. They don't know what Cooper Kupp is.
Yeah, I think it's because he's a new guy. He had some good catches in the preseason.
Yeah.
He hasn't done anything spectacular, though. And, he's still the wide receiver 3, but you still have Tavon Austin that they're paying a lot of money to. Yeah, you have Farrell Cooper, who was a high draft pick a year before that.
Yep.
Like, I think people are kind of putting the cart before the horse when it comes to Cooper Kupp. I understand kind of overreacting at times, but he's one of those guys I think is owned too much. I'm with you on this one, Craig.
Yep. Yeah, it's just I don't know. I'm just not seeing it. D.D. Westbrook's owned in 0.9% of leagues. Good old D.D. Don't pick him up in a regular league. I like D.D. Westbrook, but you got to be about a 16-team league before you pick him up at this point. But watch him. Just watch him. Chris Conley's only owned in 0.6% of leagues. 0.6. And he's what? The third. He should be the third guy in Kansas City, right?
Yeah. So he's going to be wide receiver number 2. But
yeah, I mean,
Kelsey and
just something to watch. We don't know what his actual target share is going to be. But
I do have to say this about him. If you're going to be interested in a player there, I think he is he's going to be the most reliable wide receiver. I think Tyreek Hill is going to be more of a boomer bust player a little bit still.
Yep.
Travis Kelsey is really going to be their number 1 wide receiver. But if you have a large wide receiver like, Conley, I think he kind of fits the mold of who the Chiefs like to throw to. He's much more like a Macklin than any of the other guys have. So I think he has a good opportunity to kind of be a very stable player that you could throw in there on bye weeks and you actually get good production out of him.
Let's see here. Brandon Coleman, 0.4% of leagues. I think there's more value there. There's something about it where I think I just feel like there's something there. I'm not saying like he's going to be, amazing, but I feel like he's a player that should be owned in more than 0.4% of leagues. That's all I'm saying. I don't know how much more yet, but I just think there is some chance of him having, decent weeks.
Well, especially week 1 and 2, right?
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Well, Willie Snead is suspended for the first 3 games, I believe.
Yep.
So Brandon Coleman is obviously the number 2 wide receiver all of a sudden.
Or number 3.
Oh, I'm sorry, number
you
3.
Keep forgetting about Ted.
I always forget about Ted Ginn.
He's just there. Whatever.
Anyway, I think the third wide receiver is not forgotten when Drew Brees is throwing the ball anyway.
Yep.
And Ted Ginn, I feel like, is still a one-trick pony. I think Coleman has more upside than he does really in that position.
Yep.
So I totally get it. But once again, he's a complete, 2 weeks and then he's out of there for me. Right. I think you can figure out ways you can be real quick before Snead comes back.
And some of these guys that we've just completely passed over, because these are guys at this point I don't care about, because I think there's first couple weeks I want to get some guys with upside at the end of my bench to see if they can come out. So I don't care about Torrey Smith, Cole Beasley, Mohamed Sanu, Kenny Stills. I don't care about those guys right now. Yes, I think they probably have more value than some of these guys we've talked about. But I think we know what those guys are. So those are players, if you were in a bind and you need a guy for a bye week later on, you pick them up at that point. At this point, you pick up guys I think that have a little bit more value, a little more potential value, and get those guys and see what they become. Anybody else here? Devin Funchess. He's really nothing on him, huh? He's number 2 receiver there for Carolina. Number 2. You don't see it, huh?
Yeah, I got no love for him.
All right. That's about it for wide receiver. Any tight ends that catch your eye? Anybody? There's really not much. Austin Hooper. He is owned in only 36% of leagues.
Yeah, I like him.
He's my top guy there. Watch the rookies, I guess, see what they do. They're all owned in 21% of leagues or fewer, with Howard, Ingram, and Njoku. We don't think there'll be anything this year, maybe, but they could.
Yeah,
there's nothing saying they're not going to be.
If you're hurting early in tight end situation, maybe one of your guys is questionable, you're not sure. For the first couple weeks, I still like Cameron Brate. I know O.J. Howard is there, but I think he'll come along slowly. And Brate was very good last year. Yep. So don't completely forget about him. I think he'd be a good fill-in for the first handful of weeks.
Yep. And then there's really, quarterback-wise, you're not streaming probably at this point, obviously. You still could be playing some matchups down there. But there isn't really. Carson Palmer at Detroit, that could be a good matchup if you're looking for a quarter. If you got quarterbacks at the end of the draft, you have nobody here. I would have like to see what Tyrod Taylor would do against the Jets, but I don't know if he's healthy. So that's it. I think that would have been a good matchup for him. But other than that, if you're way, way down there, that's about it. Palmer could have a good week here coming up. That's about what I got there. There's not too much. Actually, Palmer, if you're looking for a guy if you need somebody for a couple weeks here, Palmer plays Detroit and then Indianapolis. Then he has Dallas, who isn't a great defense, and then he has San Francisco, who should be poor. He could actually have a good little start here maybe you're an Andrew Luck owner, need a quarterback down there. He might be a good guy to have fill in before you get to that point. But that's about it. I think that's all I got for waivers this week. Yeah. Oh, one other guy, Buck Allen. Watch for Buck Allen. It's another one of those guys that I'm kind of just waiting to see what's going to happen with him. He's barely owned, so I think there's a chance, because I don't think that Terrence West is any good. And Danny Woodhead is going to probably have the most value there yet. I believe that. But I think he's never going to be getting the carries to start, right? You're not expecting him to be getting all these carries anyway. So Buck Allen, Javorius Allen, whatever you want to call him, only owned in 0.4% of leagues. I feel like, I don't know. He's owned in less leagues than D'Angelo Williams is owned, who doesn't have a team. What's up with that? He's owned in less leagues than Jeremy Langford. He's owned in less leagues than Glenn Gronkowski. I think he should be owned. Maybe not owned, but you watch him. He should be owned more than that. I think there's something there. So, all right. Yeah. And you got any more?
Just the defense. I know this is kind of
here. Yep.
Kind of seems irrelevant.
So I still got my waivers to make.
But, honestly, if you have one of these, even if you have a good defense you want to keep, but they're playing like a stud offense, you can always jump down here. And I think Falcon against Chicago,
that's a good one.
Or Rams. Bills against the Jets. You just pick an offense that looks terrible.
Rams against the Colts now without luck.
Yeah, exactly. That's another good one.
So those are my three. The Rams against Colts. If you're just streaming defense, Rams against Colts, Bills against Jets, Falcons against Chicago. I like all three of those options.
And I'll tell you, especially the New York Jets. I'm not sure if they'll ever get on track this year. I think they could easily be, kind of like the Cleveland situation last year, where you could literally just follow them around with teams.
Yep.
streaming defenses this year might actually be relatively easy.
Yep. Yeah, Steelers against Browns. Steelers are owned in just over 50% of leagues, but they're a potential streaming option there. But yeah, I think there's some good options this week, actually, defensive-wise. It's hard to say until we really get going to know, but I think those are pretty safe. I can't see...
Well, we don't know how the defenses are, but we definitely know what the offenses are doing.
I can't see Scott Tolzien lighting up the Rams. I can't see...
No. And we know the Jets aren't going to put up a ton of points, and I think it's safe to say that Chicago will probably be lackluster as well.
Yep. All right, I think that's it for the waivers. We'll be back with some rankings, and that'll get you ready for week 1. Talk to you guys next time.